Welcome to replies. Today I will show you a horror mystery film from 2009 titled Triangle. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take care. The movie begins with a woman named Jess crying and holding her son, telling him that he is just having a bad dream, and bad dream makes you think you have seen things that you haven't, and tells him to close his eyes and think of something nice. Jess then starts cleaning the house and tells her son to hurry up, we are going to be late. Jess hears the doorbell and goes outside, but there was no one there and asks the neighbor Jack that did he see someone ring my doorbell, and Jack replies no. Jess then packs her bag and grabs the keys, and then she sees a note on the fridge by Greg that says the Triangle Harbor at 8:30. Jess then puts her stuff in the car and leaves for the harbor. The scene then cuts to the harbor, where Greg is working on his ship and then sees Sally with her husband and a friend and welcomes them on board. Sally then tells Greg that she brought a friend, Heather, with her and introduces him to her friend. Greg then sees Jess coming with Victor and asks to be excused for a moment, and Greg asks Jess, are you okay? But Victor replies no, but Jess replies that she is just tired. Greg tells her that we don't have to do today if she don't want to go, but Jess says that she wants to go. Greg then introduces Jess to the group and they go for sailing. On the ship, Jess is sleeping and dreams about laying on a beach and wakes up as soon as the water touches her body. Heather asks Jess that is she's okay. And Jess tells her that she just had a terrible dream and she don't remember. Heather tells her not to worry as bad dreams cures real life stress and offers her a glass of champagne. On the deck, Greg asks Victor that what was back there at the harbor when he asked Jess that is she okay. And you replied no. Victor replies that you told me she was bringing the boy along, but when I asked her about the boy and she couldn't remember and later told me that he is in the school, but it's Saturday today. Greg then told Victor that her son goes to a special needs school that open every day. Jess then comes to deck and with the rest of the group and Greg lets her steer the ship. While steering, Jess asks Greg that how do he know everyone. Greg starts with Victor and tells her he got into some trouble, he had to get away, he was sleeping near the harbor, so I let him move in. Downey is a childhood friend and dated Sally in high school, so technically she an ex. Greg then takes the wheel for Jess and asks her about her son. Jess says that every day is the same, Tommy don't like change, if I change something I lose him. Greg tells her that she is a good mother. Heather then interrupts them as asks that if she can steal Jess away. Sally is dying to talk to her. Suddenly the group notices that the wind is totally gone and the boat stops. The large storm with black clouds can be seen coming towards the boat and the dark cloud starts to hover over the ship. Greg then goes to the radio and tells Coast Guard that there is no wind, could he check what's wrong? Greg and Jess then hear women on the radio asking for help, but the women keeps repeating that they are all dead. Greg asks the women her coordinates, but the radio stops working. The group then sees large waves coming towards the ship. Greg asks everyone to wear life jackets and get below the deck. It starts raining heavily. Greg asks Victor to cut the sails, but Victor struggles to do so as there is too much water. The ship starts to fill up with water. Suddenly a huge wave comes which knocks over the ship. As the storm passes, the group comes up to the surface and get on the boat, but Heather is missing. The group was sitting in shock, then suddenly Jess sees a giant ship coming towards them. The whole group starts to shout and wave for help. Luckily someone on the ship sees them and they all jump on the ship. After getting on the ship, Jess seems to be very confused. The group then decides to go the bridge and get the captain to put a call out to the Coast Guard to find Heather. Greg then takes Jess with him. The group then enter into a corridor. It seems that there is no one there. Jess sees the place and says it feels like I know this place. And recognize the corridor. Greg says it's liners, they look very similar, but Jess replies no, that's not it. In the meanwhile, Victor asks the group to check out the images of the ship and it seemed that ship was boarded in 1932 and it's called Aeolus. Sally told the group that Aeolus was a Greek god and he cheated death. The group then hears a sound like someone drops something. Victor and Greg starts to look where the sound came from. Victor picks up something from the ground and hands it to Jess. Jess then says that these are my keys. The group starts to confuse that how is it possible, but Sally says it might be Heather, she must have dropped it here. The groups then walks into a ballroom and sees that there is food on the table. Victor then asks Greg what time it is. Greg says it's 11:30, but Jess' watch says at 8:17, same as the ship's clock. Jess then sees someone in the corridor mirror and Victor's runs to see. Greg then leaves the ballroom and asks Downey and Sally to wait for Victor. Jess then follows Greg and tells him that she thinks Victor is in danger, but Greg says he is not worried about Victor. Jess tell him that she know this place and it's like having a deja vu. Greg denies everything and says that you are just in shock. Greg and Jess hears a shower in a room. Greg knocks and enters the room and find a mirror on which it written go to theater with blood. Victor's still looking for someone on the ship when suddenly he hears noises and goes after them. In the meanwhile, Jess asks Greg that are you going to ignore that we just saw blood, but Greg still denies it and says it's someone just messing with us for fun. Jess then leave Greg alone to get back to the ballroom and to get off this ship. Sally and her husband walking in the corridor sees blood on the floor and Sally starts to follow it and goes to the theater. Jess gets back to ballroom but finds that there is no one there. Then starts to hear some noise coming from the corridor. It seemed to Victor coming out of the corridor with blood all over his body. Victor starts to strangle Jess, but Jess manages to escape him by hitting the wound on the back of his head and Victor dies. Jess then hears a gunshot and starts to run towards it. She reaches the theater and sees that Greg is lying on the floor with a gunshot wound. Sally jumped to Jess and started pushing her saying you shot Greg and he is dead. Jess tells them she didn't do it, she was with Victor, someone attacked him, but Downey thinks that she did it and asks her why did you tell us to come to the theater. Jess denies that she didn't told them, then suddenly Sally is shot in the chest. Downey tries to save her and gets shot in the back. There is shooter wearing a mask, kills both Sally and Downey in the theater, and Jess runs for her life trying to hide from the killer. Jess gets into the kitchen and picks up a knife. Jess walks through the corridor and sees a sign saying boat deck and she goes up but finds that there are no boats. Jess gets knocked down by the killer in the mask and tells him to not to shoot and she have a son. The killer shoots at Jess anyways, but Jess manages to dodge the shot and escape from the killer and runs. The killer gun gets emptied and in order to stop Jess from getting away he throws the gun at her which knows her down to the ground. Jess then finds an axe and confronts the killer and Jess hits him with the axe and manages to knock the weapon out of his hand. Jess aggressively asks the kill who are you? The just rapidly said to kill them, you have to kill them, it's the only way to go home. The killer then fell down the ship and Jess starts to hear music coming from a record player. Jess then hears some people from outside asking for help and sees that it's the same group with her on the boat. She is confused and in shock. Jess then sees her group members walking around the corridors and hears herself saying that same things that she already said before. Jess then drops her keys by accident, then runs to hide from the group. Then she goes into the same room with water noise and sees that the go to theater is still written on the mirror with blood. Jess then goes to the ballroom to see the new group and the new Jess sees her in the corridor and then she runs to the deck and sees a body floating in the ocean. Victor finds the old Jess on the deck. Jess tells Victor that we don't have much time and there is a copy of myself. Then she shows Victor the floating body in the ocean and says it's Downey. But the body disappeared. Jess tries to convince that there are two of herself and Victor died in the restaurant and someone killed you. Jess said that you should have never boarded the ship and I should have stopped you. Jess accidentally pushes Victor to the wall and the metal nail on the wall stick into his head. Jess then runs away. Jess is having a mental breakdown trying to process what is happening. Jess then finds multiple pieces of paper with one same message in her own handwriting which says, if they board ship kill them all, and sees multiple uniforms which is same as the killer and a room full of guns same as the killer's. Jess then starts to hear the killer voice in her head to kill them, if they board, kill them. Jess then sees multiple lockets down a hole and notices that they are same as she have and her locket falls down in the hole. She then grabbed the bullets for the gun and goes down to the ballroom where she finds Victor and tells him that she didn't mean to hurt him. Jess then confronts the new Jess and repeatedly says that you are not me while holding a gun at her. But lets her go and the new Jess runs out of the ballroom. Jess then tells Victor that to stay strong and she is going to get the other, but suddenly she hears a gunshot and goes to theater where she sees Greg is shot and tells Sally and Downey to move as it's all starting over again. Jess then says that we can change the pattern and tells Downey and Sally to wait in the corridor as she is going to get Victor and shoot anyone that comes to them. Jess goes down to the ballroom and finds that Victor is not there and it seems that Victor is thrown off the ship. In the corridor Downey shoots at the wall and asks, who is it? It's the killer Jess. The killer's Jess then takes off her mask and start to pretend to be the real Jess. Downey asks her where is Victor. The killer Jess replies he is dead, he fell over the side. The killer Jess then asks Sally and Downey to follow her if they want to live. Downey then hears the old Jess shouting his name, but the killer Jess tells him to ignore it and takes them into a room and kills them with a knife. Sally manages to escape the killer Jess and finds a radio room where she sends out a message and says help me, and keeps repeating that they are all dead. Sally then goes to the deck and trying to escape. Jess also comes to the deck looking for her and finds out that there are multiple dead bodies of Sally's on the deck. Jess then goes to Sally and tries to help her and asks her to trust her as she didn't do this to her. Jess then hears someone and sees that there are two other Jess and one is going through the same thing as she did and throws off the killer Jess off the boat. Jess then tries to convince Sally that the triangle boat will come again and we will escape on it, but Sally dies. Then Jess finds out that the boat only comes when all of them are dead. Jess then goes down to engine and tries to stop the ship but fails. She starts to cry and says that she wants to go home. Jess then comes to senses and tries to take control of the situation and goes to wounded Victor and tells him that she can save him and she knows how to save him. Jess then goes to room where Downey is killed and writes "Go to theater" on the mirror with Downey's blood and throws the bodies into the sea. Downey and Sally in the ballroom sees Jess coming and Jess tells them to go to theater. Jess then grabs the gun and the bullets and changes into the killer clothes and confronts Greg in the theater. Greg tries to stop the killer and notices that it's Jess and asks her why she is doing this and what she is wearing. Jess tells Greg that she don't want him to see her face as this is not her and the real Jess is out there on the boat with Greg. Jess tells Greg that when she kill him the boat will return and she will stop them from boarding and they all will be saved. Greg repeatedly asks Jess to put down the gun but Jess shoots him anyways and kills Downey and Sally in the theater. She starts to look for the new Jess and knows her down with a gun. Jess runs after the new Jess trying to stop her. The same fight repeats and Jess repeats to kill them and it's the only way to get home to the new Jess before falling over into the sea. Jess wakes up and finds herself on the beach and walks home. When she reaches home she notices there is already a version of herself in the house. She rings the doorbells to her house and goes to the back to get a hammer. Jess goes into the house and kills herself in the bedroom. Tommy sees it all and tries to run in shock, but Jess grabs her and tells her that he is just having a bad dream and bad dream makes you think you have seen things that you haven't. Jess packs the dead body of herself and puts it into the car and leaves the house with Tommy. On the road she hits a bird and kills it. Jess stops the car to throw away the bird and sees that there are already multiple birds dead on the side of the road. Jess runs to the cars and tells Tommy that we need to go and we need to get out of here. But Tommy keeps screaming as there is blood on the car. Jess tries to stop him and gets distracted and her car collides with a truck on the road. Tommy dies in the car accident and Jess stands and watches him. The driver appears from behind and asks Jess if is she okay and asks that can he give her a ride. Jess agrees and asks the driver to take her to the harbor. Jess reaches the harbor all confused and finds Victor there. Victor asks Jess about her and Jess replies that he is at school. Greg then comes up to Jess and asks her if she is okay. Jess replies she is just tired. Greg tells her that we don't have to go today if she don't want to go, but Jess says that she wants to go and they all go to sail into the same loop. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on the notification and leave a like to help the channel out. Thanks for watching.